So I want to talk about why everyone should be going to plant-based foods to get their iron and not from meat. Okay, iron is a mineral. Its main purpose is to carry oxygen and the hemoglobin of your red blood cells throughout your body so that your cells can produce energy. Now, there's a difference between iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia. You can be deficient in iron and not have anemia, right? If you were to get a ferritin test and it shows that you have low iron stores, that just means the amount of ferritin in your blood is low and that you may be at risk of getting iron deficiency anemia. But just because you have low iron stores doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And I'm gonna get into that a little later. But iron deficiency anemia is characterized by having a low red blood cell count. And when you don't have these red blood cells, that means you don't have them to carry oxygen throughout your body to produce energy. And that can result in weakness, fatigue, shortness of breath, reduced immunity. And a simple CBC test or a complete blood count test could tell you if you have iron deficiency anemia. Now there's two types of iron. There's heme iron and there's non-heme iron. Heme iron is from animal products, your meat, dairy, and eggs. Non-heme iron is from plant-based foods, your nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, fruits, veggies, etc. Now iron deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency on this planet. It affects about 25% of the global population, particularly in women and in children. And that's why the recommended dietary intake, or the RDI, for men is only 8 milligrams, but for women, it's 18. Now, daily iron intake is useless. It doesn't mean anything. What matters is how much iron your body could absorb. And that could depend on a lot of different variables. But the bioavailability of iron, or the amount of iron that your body could absorb, can vary by 5 to 10 times depending on what foods you consume with it. Now, iron from animal products is better absorbed in the body than iron from plant-based foods. However, that is not a good thing because too much iron in your body is toxic. There's been many studies that have shown that people with higher iron stores have a higher chance of suffering from cardiovascular disease, other health problems, and certain cancers. What would normally happen is there would be a small amount of iron stored in your liver to supply your new red blood cells. Right? But if you absorb excessive amounts of iron, it builds up in your liver and gets deposited in your tissues and organs, and that can lead to liver damage, heart failure, and diabetes. Non-heme iron absorption is primarily determined by your body's need for iron. Those with the lowest iron stores will absorb more and excrete less. Therefore, iron from plant-based foods, from non-heme iron, is safely regulated. Heme iron, on the other hand, iron from animal products, is absorbed regardless of how much your body needs. Non-heme iron is more carefully controlled and more readily absorbed when your body has a need for iron, a protective measure for iron overload. So this means that our bodies can adapt efficiently to manage and use its iron reserves, and we can adapt successfully to a wide range of dietary iron intakes and requirements. And that there's apparently no advantage of storing more than a minimal amount of iron your body needs. Now I want to talk about non-heme iron absorption. Now there's enhancers and there's inhibitors. Inhibitors are things that block the absorption of iron in our bodies. There's things like phytates or fattic acid, polyphenols, calcium, oxalates, right? These are different inhibitors that are found in plant-based foods that block the absorption of iron in our bodies. Phytates, for example, are found in different legumes, whole grain cereals, grains, right? They're antioxidants. Then there's oxalates, which are organic compounds. There's polyphenols, which is, a micronutrient found in different teas, coffees, chocolates, red wines. And then there's calcium, which is, an inhibitor for both non-heme iron and heme iron, right? These are all things that are inhibitors. Now there's enhancers as well, right? The most significant enhancer is vitamin C. Vitamin C can enhance absorption up to 6-fold for those with low iron stores. Now, there's a lot of meat eaters that will say they refuse to eat these foods because of these inhibitors. But what they fail to understand is that the benefits of eating these foods outweigh any of the negative nutritional effects. And you could also remove a lot of these anti-nutrients from sprouting, boiling, and soaking. Now, another thing that you guys should know is that when you're on a plant-based diet, you should be eating a wide variety of plant-based foods. Because when you're eating a wide variety of different foods, you're gonna get a mix of the enhancers and you're gonna get a mix of the inhibitors. And what's gonna happen is these enhancers are gonna cancel out the inhibitors, and in most cases, they'll overcome the effects of the inhibitors, and your body's gonna take in what it needs. So if you think that you should be going to animal products to get your iron, not only are you setting yourself up for getting iron toxicity, you're also increasing your chances of getting heart disease and stroke. And keep in mind, heart disease is the #1 global killer in this world, right above cancer, which is second on the list. And guess where nutritional deficiencies is on that list? On the bottom. And not only are you getting saturated fats and cholesterol from eating all these animal products, you're also getting antibiotics, hormones, dioxins, and a host of all these other toxins that's not only detrimental to your health, but to the entire planet. Now, there's been many studies that have shown that iron deficiency anemia is no more common among vegans than it is for non-vegans, even though vegans tend to have lower iron stores. And there's been many studies that have shown that vegans actually have a higher intake of iron compared with non-vegans, but still had lower iron stores as assessed by their serum ferritin levels. But they still weren't at greater risk for getting iron deficiency anemia. So if you want to do this the right way, get your iron from plant-based foods. Do not get it from meat. All right, here are the top 10 plant-based foods with the highest iron.